Yo, have you heard of LinkedIn Learning? If you haven't, LinkedIn Learning is an American massive open online course provider. It provides video courses taught by industry experts in a variety of subjects. Now, why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this because Living Corporate is in partnership with LinkedIn Learning to provide diversity, equity, and inclusion courses. Listen, if you're trying to be a better ally, you want to understand better diversity, equity, inclusion strategies, or you just want to learn how to be a better leader, you got to check out the courses on LinkedIn Learning. So check it out. You can do it one of two ways. You can click the link in the show notes, or you go to LinkedIn Learning and you search Living Corporate. Again, link in the show notes, or go to LinkedIn Learning and search Living Corporate. I'll see you over there.
Living Corporate is a digital media network consultancy focused on workplace equity and inclusion. Living Corporate centers and amplifies Black and Brown voices in the workplace through digital media production and B2B consulting. The network offers a variety of programming, and tonight we are excited that you're joining us for our latest installment of The Access Point. The Access Point is a weekly webinar focused on preparing Black and Brown college students and early career professionals for the workforce by having the real nuanced talks they don't know they need. We will focus more closely on real challenges that you, our viewers, are facing as you move through the early stages of your career. So we welcome your stories, experiences, and questions, and look forward to equipping you with strategies to mitigate these challenges. Here's a disclaimer. The thoughts and views expressed tonight in tonight's discussion do not reflect the views of any organization the host may be affiliated with. With that, let's start with introductions. Deborah?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Deborah Hunter Johnson, and my goal is to accelerate your wisdom curve. I want to tell you what you need to know now so that you can achieve your goals faster and more fully.
Thank you, Deborah. And I am Dr. Wendy M. Edmonds. I am an author, consultant, and assistant professor at Bowie State University. And guess what? Your job is your treasure. I help you separate the gems from the counterfeits. Let's get started. Deborah?
Thank you, Wendy. So our topic this evening is soft skills, hard truths. There was a time long ago when if you performed on the technical aspects of your job in an excellent, high-performing way, you were guaranteed promotion, elevation to the top. But today's world is much more complex. And what we are recognizing is that soft skills are equally as important in your rise to the top and in you excelling in whatever you want to do. Now, the sad truth is many people still embrace the soft part of soft skills, and they think that they're unnecessary, they're ancillary, they're adjacent to the key skills that you need to get ahead. But what we know today is that if you look at the best leaders in industries, in government, in the not-for-profit sector, those leaders excel at having soft skills, and they view them as an integral part of their portfolio. So we know that soft skills matter today. Now, I'm not sure that everyone who's listening might agree. So I want you to think about these situations and finding yourself in these situations. The first one is this: working on a big project, and your piece of it requires input from peers who are ignoring your requests and your deadlines and may delay your report and hurt others working on the project. Think about this situation. Your boss just informed you that she believes you're at least 2 years out from receiving a promotion. You're in utter shock and disbelief because you've been busting your behind for the last 18 months, and your last performance review put you in the top tier. Here's the last scenario. The new and potentially lucrative medical doctor client for your company happens to be Black. You've observed that members of your team treat her in a more familiar, less respectful way and often call her by her first name without the honorific of doctor. And you've begun to notice that she has noticed. Now, I will tell you, in all three of these situations, technical skills will not help you navigate through it. It's going to be the soft skills. And if you look at our news cycles lately, increasingly the failures that we see in leadership are generally the result of some sort of soft skill breakdown. Wendy, would you agree with that statement?
I do. I absolutely do. Now, in the same manner, there are specific soft skills needed by leaders. And a candidate in a leadership position would be expected to encompass qualities that make them more relatable or charismatic.
That's right. And let's think about that NFL situation.
Yes. So
with the coach, right?
Right. And so even having said that, there's a dark side to the soft skills when either they are not implemented or when such skills are exaggerated and used for the wrong reasons, as we saw in the NFL situation. That's in the news right now with John Gruden, who over a period of 10 years sent emails that were racist, misogynistic, and homophobic. So here's a man who was elevated to a position ultimately leading to his 10-year, $100 million contract, and took no thought of risking his career by lack of using soft skills.
And it's interesting because from the reports that I read, the emails that he sent had multiple people on them.
They did.
Which suggests that a lot of people in that circle didn't have good soft skills either.
That's right. And they signed on to that.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to create a groupthink as a result of that.
That's right. Nobody stood up to it. Absolutely. So tonight, what we want to do is talk about why soft skills matter, and also talk about how the lack of soft skills and as in the NFL situation, can present roadblocks to you achieving your goals and what you want to do in your career. So let's go ahead and jump right into our discussion today on what you need to do in terms of having soft skills. So, Wendy, I know in your work as a professor and in your work as a PhD candidate leading up to you getting your doctorate, there were certain issues that you researched and studied that play into soft skills and affect some of the themes that we see when we talk about soft skills. Would you spend a little time sharing that with us?
Sure. Toxic followership. When we are talking about toxic followership, I define that as the trusted leader who manipulates the mindset of others to the point of getting them to be loyal, behave the same way, even unto the point of sometimes giving their life for that individual. What I find tied here with soft skills and toxic followership is that air of deception.
Tell me more about that.
At the systems level, let's think about the whole systems level with the NFL. Let's take that and just kind of break that down. So the NFL has been under pressure to address the toxic culture issues anyway that they were experiencing. And to the world, it just really seemed like they were doing something. There was some movement to improve. They did things like allow the football players to wear signage, Black Lives Matter, on their headgear. They also printed in the end zone, "and racism." So it looks like, yes, they're moving along. And we're talking about soft skills now and at the organization level. So if those things were meant to show empathy and diplomacy, they missed the mark, because for over 10 years in the background, those soft skills were exploited. In the background, you had this culture of making fun of people, their facial features, and they were leaders. So the NFL, while trying to show and prove that they had been moving ahead, using their soft skills, that wasn't the case. The NFL, 70% of their roster consists of Black men. And there are only 5 Black general managers. And of the 32 head coaches, there are only 3. So it's impossible to even build trust in an organization when there are deceptive practices occurring.
That definitely does not promote trust, in my experience.
Does.
Absolutely not. What I've seen in the soft skills space is a number of things. There was a time, I would say it was when African Americans first began to go into private sector corporate jobs, or in the days where they were first allowed into government jobs, desk jobs, office jobs, white collar jobs. And they were advised, go into areas that are technical, mathematics, things where there is only one answer, because it pulls the subjectivity out of the situation. So there's only one right answer. Somebody cannot say your answer is wrong and play games with you. Now, the thing about technical competence, because that is what our community has focused on a lot, because we weren't always presumed to be technically proficient, to know what we were doing. So we have spent a lot of time being prepared to prove to people that we have knowledge, we have the technical experience, we have the know-how to do things. And many times we haven't focused that same attention on the skills that you find leaders have. And when I say leaders, that means people in a position of trust that others in institutions follow. Because nobody follows technical skills and experience. They may come ask you a question and they'll do the Vulcan mind meld to try to suck all your knowledge out of you, but they do not follow that. As you said, Wendy, they follow charismatic people, people who are engaging. But to really leverage those innate skills, because you're sort of born charismatic, it's hard to acquire it. You have to tie with that a value system. You have to tie with that strategic skills that are soft. For me, it's how to negotiate, how to team build, how to collaborate, how to listen, to be a good listener. All of those things are very important if you want to lead. And you have to be able to demonstrate it to people so that they can feel it, which means you have to be adept at reading people and figuring out, how can I talk to this person in a way that I can be influential and persuasive to them. And it takes decades to hone those skills. And I find that many folks in underrepresented groups tend to be late to the party and recognizing that those skills are needed to get ahead. And sometimes they feel that the deck is stacked against them or there's favoritism and other things when it's really people have built relationships. They focused on how to influence people and how to win people over. And that's what's gotten them, across to the other side. And one of the things that's an impediment for us to be adept at soft skills is this sense of otherism. Because when you are the only one in your workplace, it's harder to build that connection. It takes more time. And so developing successfully soft skills often is a longer proposition for all of us. And if you were someone like me that grew up with parents that were very accomplishments focused, they wanted to see the checklist of everything that you had accomplished, it's hard to put soft skills on there. I learned how to negotiate. What does that mean? Show me something tangible that you achieved. So a lot of people often think soft skills are a sign of superficiality, that people are trying to bluster their way through, that they really don't have, fluff. They don't have the technical competence, so they're relying on alliances and friendships. And they both go hand in hand. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have the technical skills, but you really have to pair it with soft skills if you want to be successful. That's really no other way around it.
It's no other way except to have that balance. And we should always be really cognizant of evaluating the balance. Is the organization doing what they say they do? Are the leaders doing what they say they are doing? Right? Because the optics don't mean anything if there isn't
and honestly
behind it. It's
Wendy,
no good.
Wendy, if they're not doing it, that's really when your soft skills need to come into play, because you really do need to have allies, because the information coming through formal channels may not be accurate.
Right.
It might not be complete. And you may need to have relationships that provide you with that back channel information, which means you have to build trust with certain people so that they will share information with you.
And
Absolutely.
The reason why leaders are expected, there's an expectancy with them that they encompass some of these qualities and abilities with the soft skills, right? They're expected to build a team, to make it cohesive. This is the expectation. In a toxic situation, if the culture is toxic, like in the case of Rudin, so the company is deceiving everybody, they're not really trying to do anything to end racism. He followed the very same culture and made the very same poor decisions. So even in looking at that, the choice to not exhibit social competence and to exploit his position of authority and engage in that toxic culture actually involved other people following him, which is why on the emails, the other people that were involved, no one said anything. No one stood up. And what we know about people, or what we've learned, I'll say, about people who connect with unethical leaders and practices, those who will not use the soft skills to really build an organization and build trust, is that they will not exercise good judgment when they stand to gain something from their participation.
That's right. That's right. You know, we talked earlier about some scenarios that all of us could face in life that require us to have good skills. And the second one I talked about is the boss that have informed you that, I think you're about 2 years out.
It's not your time.
Right.
Time.
And you're thinking, what do you mean? I have to do this another 2 years before I'm considered for promotion. And sometimes that behavior is disingenuous. You know, the boss recognizes you're a high performer. They don't want to lose you necessarily. So they are going to make you feel like there's always something more to learn. And that's where your soft skills come into play, because you have to figure out, you know, you can always leave, but I don't always think that that should be the first reaction for people when they face conflict in the workplace. They face adversity, because you're going to have that in life, and you have to build that resilience, another soft skill to have, to power through it. And you've got to quickly discern what's motivating your boss. Is your boss motivated by, as you said, you know, nefarious reasons for wanting to hold you down? Or are there legitimate things that you need to learn? And your soft skills will help you, number one, not get angry,
right,
and behave in a way that will compromise your situation. Number two, give you the listening skills and the communication skills to have the crucial conversations, to dissect and diagnose what's going on. And then strategic skills to help you develop a plan to achieve what your goal is, which is not to wait another 2 years to get promoted. And all of those things are soft skills that come into play in navigating that type of situation.
So, Deborah, you know, we often think about negotiating for a promotion, negotiating for the next job. I had a friend that shared with me that she had to negotiate her exit.
Absolutely.
What skills?
Absolutely.
I mean, skills. And
I mean, as a lawyer, that is very commonplace. That is something that's common to my experience. And some people do it better than others.
Yes.
Because even a resignation, when you are the one that's deciding to leave, there are some negotiations related to that. Because some people make a decision to leave and they give notice, and then they get outmaneuvered and agree to stay another 2 months until their successor is found.
Right.
Or they agree to complete a project that would normally take 6 months in 2 weeks, because they've given 2 weeks notice, and all of a sudden they get this laundry list of things that they are required to do before they leave. So exiting is a negotiation, even when you resign, but even more so when the departure may not necessarily be your choice, either a termination or a downsizing. And that's when you have to be adept. And as we talked about last week, that's when you need your board of directors, so your people you can call that can help you navigate through it. And a lot of people, you know, don't think of negotiation as a skill. They just think it's just something, it's conversation. But there actually is a strategy to negotiating. There is planning that goes into it, and all of the things related to patience and listening, influencing, all are soft skills that affect how strongly your negotiating skills develop.
So even with learning to interact in different situations, how to diffuse threatening situations, all of those play a role in the workplace.
That's right. And the people who are the best at it are the ones who are thoughtful and intentional about it. I mean, there are a few that are born blessed with that patience and that ability to say just the right thing at the right time. Most of us have to work at it and go in being prepared. So look at the other scenario, Wendy. I would like you to kind of weigh in on this one. This was the scenario with the new client who is an MD, a doctor, a female, African American. and she is potentially a big customer for this company. Yet, she is not being treated the same as other customers. People call her by her first name. They don't call her by doctor. They give her less attention. They're not rolling out the red carpet. And you in the workplace see that happening. And you start realizing that she notices it. What soft skills will come into play in that? Because that is a very complex situation.
It is, because that's an external client, and you also have your internal colleagues and coworkers that you have to work with. And what comes to mind is just that, not the negotiating skills up front, but building that trust. Excuse me, because the building that trust just to approach and reach out and say, how are you feeling?
And you know what? You might also
important.
have to keep it, you might also have to keep it generic and not say
Yes.
that you notice anything, because that might put you in conflict with your company.
Exactly.
So it's very delicate balance too.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Showing that you understand, that you acknowledge what's going on could be a risk. But I would say to ask, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Be the first to address using her title, doctor.
That's right. Absolutely.
These are soft skills that are just kind of understood, right? You don't have to work at that to address someone by their title. And it happens all the time. It happens quite frequently. So I have been in places where they'll come up to me and say, hi, I'm Dr. Ted Johnson. And I say, hi, I'm Dr. Wendy Edmonds. What do I call you?
Absolutely. Ask. But you will find, with respect to women and minorities, there is often an unconscious bias there. And then when you have the intersectionality of a woman of color, it triggers for people how they were raised, how they were socialized to treat people who look like that. And many people don't think of a woman of color in an exalted role, even today.
Or even respect it.
Yes.
Not accept it, but even respect it. So in a room where everyone had the same credentials, although I was the only African American in the room, a gentleman came up to me and rushed towards me with a jump drive and said, hi, I'm going to be the second presenter. I want you to tee this up so it'll be ready when it's time for me to present. I was dressed just like everyone else in the room, right, with professionally. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm sorry. I'm not the person that you really need to talk to do that. Perhaps you need to speak with those who are outside at the table. So those are the kinds of things that have happened where you say, some people are blessed to be born with those skills. They develop along the way. Good news tonight is that we're sharing how the importance is to not necessarily wait for those types of instances to take place, but to spend that time developing those skills.
And Wendy, how you responded is a perfect example of utilizing your soft skills, because you didn't get angry. You didn't respond in a harsh way that could have derailed things or set a negative tone. You dealt with it using your soft skills. Patience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take the high road here. I'm going to make this a teachable moment, but I'm going to do it in a kind way.
Right. Because remember, how you deliver your message is also going to determine how it's received.
Absolutely. And that's why I feel that, communication is really the soft skill superpower skills,
Mm-hmm.
because the best communicator is the best listener.
Mm-hmm.
And then you know how to deliver a message that can be received well. But what I liked about your example is you allowed the person to have their dignity. You
Yes.
made your point, but you
Yeah.
were not demeaning.
Right.
Even though some might have argued, well, this person demeaned you, so you have a right to respond in a similarly demeaning way. And that just derails the situation.
It does. And we have to
Mhm.
remember that that doesn't help anything. I didn't lose any oxygen as a result of that comment. I didn't lose a meal as a result of that comment. There was no danger posed to my life as a result of that comment.
Absolutely.
And so when those things are
You are going to live to see another day.
right. That
Absolutely.
also helps. So that that's that part of that emotional intelligence, managing your emotions, and it's really interesting because sometimes people don't realize that it's wrong. They don't. It's just habit.
Mm-hmm.
It's habit.
Mm-hmm. It is habit, and it is from their lived experience about who is important and who is not important,
Right.
who is
I
superior to them and who is subordinate to them. And anytime we make decisions based on what people look like,
yes.
we usually get it wrong.
Yeah.
We usually get it wrong.
One of the mitigation strategies that I thought about was using the real power.
Tell me more about that.
Well, in my experience, being the only African American in management or the only African American in the room, it was very easy to be dismissed. It was very easy for others in the room to say things that they felt comfortable saying, but it didn't make me feel comfortable at all. But what I learned was that being the only did not make me a minority. And so, right, it did not mean that I was less than. And I realized my power. So, my power was my voice and my courage to speak up. I had to learn the place, the time, the tone, developing those soft skills to be able to do that. Because being influential means that you can be effective without being absurd or profane.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what is important. So, should any of our listeners find themselves in a space where they're faced with that kind of situation, where a colleague may be treating them the same way, or in a space where a conversation that you're offended by shows up, don't ignore it. And even if you really want to say, shut the heck up and sit down, don't do that, right? Don't do that, because it's not showing that level of emotional intelligence and managing your emotions and others. What that does is you have to first acknowledge it and let them know, I hear you.
Right.
And I'm not confused about this, but you're making me feel uncomfortable.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. It's acknowledgement and then letting them know that this isn't working. And that's the real power. That's the real power to influence change.
Okay. What other mitigation strategies would you suggest?
I also have here that, when we share, I love what you said about leaving a job is not the first thing that you recommend. And there's strategies to dealing and standing up to in a toxic culture and standing up to toxic leaders. So that board of trustees, that that personal board of directors that you build, you're going to have to call on them. You're going to need to have those conversations and build a strategy as to how you address this. Some people may encounter this shortly after starting a job.
I agree.
How do you comfortably do this? And
Mm-hmm.
everyone isn't in a position. Some people are the sole breadwinners for the families. And it's not as easy as I'm going to pack up and leave. So I always say to use that personal board of directors and build a strategy. And then I also say stage your skills. Stage your skills.
Okay,
So
tell
if
me
you
more about
don't
that.
know better, you can't do better. So it's easy to assimilate and become a toxic follower. But if you spend that time to develop your communication skills, negotiating skills, and managing your emotions, being collaborative, invest in yourself, and you can do that while having fun. So how does that take place? By volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
So you play a lot of roles when you volunteer in organizations. You're learning from different positions in the organization how to build those attributes that you're going to need to navigate the workspace. And these skills make it easier to form relationships and create trust and dependability while you're having fun doing that and you're serving a purpose. And then the last thing I would think about is making use of our technology. So we walk around all the time. We have the watches, the cell phones, iPads. We can carry our technology in more than one place at a time. And there are soft skill tools at your fingertips. So there are apps, soft skill apps that are available, and they do everything from giving you articles to management tips on a daily basis, right down to having a place for articles. So
That
you
is
have
true. There's
Linda.
a lot of information at your fingertip today.
Yeah, lynda.com and LinkedIn. You have Coursera, where there's courses that are free that you can develop. And then you have also the Harvard Business Review, hbr.org, that gives you management tips on a daily basis. So I often say just put those in action.
Those are all good tips. When I think about soft skills, there are just so many. And I think someone could feel overwhelmed.
Yes.
Where do I begin? How do I know what I need to know? I have some unconscious incompetence. I don't know what I don't know. And, I would recommend that you think of it as a progression.
Mm-hmm.
In your early years of your career, you are really focusing on learning your craft
Mm-hmm.
and focusing on the technical piece, because what I don't want anybody to think is you don't have to have the technical prowess. What I'm saying is that that's not the only thing you need to be successful, but you are honing your craft, and you are also observing,
Yes.
paying attention to the different leadership styles, the effectiveness of the styles, and not just to look vertically upstream at your boss. You need to look at your coworkers and peers and who seems to be doing well and achieving in a righteous way, not the political stab you in the back with a knife, but the people who are actually modeling good things, to see what's successful in workplaces so that you can start thinking about the soft skills that you need to know. Now, as you start getting, 8 to 15 years into your career, people are going to expect you to know how to delegate, because by then you might be managing a team, and you will not get ahead if you're still hoarding all the work and trying to do it yourself. So delegation is going to be a soft skill that you need to have. You need to know how to manage difficult people. And that again goes back to communication, determining what the root cause of the problem is. You need to carry yourself as an experienced, mature person. Your comportment, how you dress, how you carry yourself becomes more and more important, because unfortunately we are still in a society that's very visual.
Mm-hmm.
First impressions do still matter. So in this world of business casual and being on Zoom in a more relaxed manner, you still need to think about your brand and what image you want to put across. You have to strike the balance of being both aggressive and conciliatory, because there is a role for aggression in the workplace. I don't mean towards people, but in getting the work done, being driven to get the project done, to get the results. Because at the end of the day, you do have to be results oriented. And then as you move farther along in your career, trust is important. You have to recognize that you have to turn the technical work over to someone else. And the companies that fail and the leaders that fail are the ones that are still trying to hold on to doing the work instead of building a team that they trust, that they delegate it to, so that they can focus on the other things, being strategic, partnerships, providing that wisdom, providing that guidance, being the cheerleader that can rally the troops to make sure everybody is feeling good about where they work. And so think of it as a progression. You don't have to have it all on day one, but every time you go into a new leadership role, you should be thinking strategically, okay, what soft skills am I going to need to develop that I didn't need in my last job? There's a book that I like called The First 90 Days. It's by Michael Watkins. And it's a book that I recommend that everybody read when you go into a new leadership role. Now, a lot of it is not telling you things that you may not know or knew, but it's giving it to you in an organized fashion so you don't forget. Because most people who go into a new leadership role fail for one reason. They keep doing what they did in the last job that made them successful. And what you did in your last job will not make you successful in your current role. And this book helps you focus on the things that you need to get early wins, and to focus on the soft skills that you need to build new alliances, to figure out who thought they were supposed to get your job and didn't get it, that may be, in the background trying to cause your demise. All those types of things that you need to focus on in your soft skills. I found that book to be very helpful. The other thing I wanted to talk about in terms of mitigation strategies is identifying your likability areas. We all have reasons why people are drawn to us and like us. Maybe you're the storyteller. Maybe you tell jokes. Maybe you have the dashing hat or the pocket square, or you always have the latest toy or something that draws people to you. Leverage it, because sometimes that creates a common ground, a common topic of conversation that helps build trust in the circles that you're in, so that you have something beyond work to talk about and you start building a connection with people. It is often hard to do that when you're the only woman in the workplace or the only person of color. And sometimes the way to break through that position of being an outsider is to find what's likable about you, what tends to draw people in, and double down on it and leverage it. There's nothing wrong with doing that at all. But I do say
something simple, right? It doesn't have to be something really big.
No, it's something simple.
Yeah.
Right. I had a bowl of candy in my office.
Yes.
So anybody with a sweet tooth would somehow, during the course of the day or the week, make it into my office. Mm-hmm. And then we could talk, laugh about the candy. Mm-hmm. I needed more Hershey Kisses and less Baby Ruth, or more hard candy, less chewing gum. Things, just normal day-to-day things that are shared experiences for all of us to participate in. The other thing that I really want to encourage people to do is to have a life outside of work. Yes. Have you ever had that coworker, all they can talk about is work? That's their life. And even when you socialize with them at the Christmas party or somewhere outside of work, they're still talking about work. Yeah. And you begin to wonder, what else do you have going on? And as you rise up the leadership ranks, you've got to have something to talk about over lunch, over dinner, with the board of directors on the golf course. So you have to have some interesting things about you. And the only way to do that is if you're living and you're going to the art exhibits and you're going to the ball games and you're reading books and you're keeping up with the popular things so that you have topics of conversation to pull out when you're in those relaxed settings. Because that is the way, again, you have the opportunity to make those personal connections. And if you can't do that, you will find people are not going to invite you to those things because they will say you can't represent the company well. You're kind of stiff. You make people uncomfortable because you only talk about work, right? So you really do have to carve out some real life to have experiences, to have things to talk about, to be interesting.
And don't make it difficult. It could be as simple as going to the gym together. Ask someone to join you for a walk at break time, or
or even to lunch.
Yeah, just something simple. Walk to the cafe while I pick up a cup of coffee. Anything like that is going to help and build that networking. And that being the only, that's what helps.
And many times when you are the only, it's up to you to do it first. And some people have a problem with that. And you know what I say to people, you've got to think about your goals for your career.
Right.
I'm not trying to solve world peace or, shape race relations globally in my job. But if I can help break down walls by extending the hand first, I control the situation.
That's right.
And so there's nothing wrong with that. I don't feel less by being first. Not at all. So we have to think about those things as we're building our career. What are our goals? What soft skills are going to get us there? And what can we get an ancillary benefit by breaking down some barriers and walls in institutions? By having people understand, you know what? Yes, I'm the only one here. Get to know me. I'm interesting. People like me. I'm like, if you want some technical competence plus a good time, interesting conversation, with somebody on their way to the top, come say hello. And you create that energy and it will help you move things forward. So soft skills, we've given a number of mitigation. I think we're up to number 7. We could probably go all day here, but I don't think we're supposed to do that, Wendy. I think we're supposed to wind things down now.
I think we are. And I want to remind everyone of some of the real key takeaways from tonight was use your real power, right? Exercise courage and strategy by tapping into that personal board of directors. There were several skills, actually more than several, that I'm just going to list. Honing in your skills by having fun through volunteerism. As you grow in your career, you're expected to be able to manage difficult people. So those are skills that they're looking for. Delegate. Remember your brand. You are who they see. We are still, as Deborah said, a visual society. And find that balance with technical and soft skills. And truly have fun so that you can talk about something outside of work and take that likability factor and wear it well. That's for what we have for tonight with the soft skills. We want to toast and celebrate your progress in your career with all of our listeners that are out there. What are you having tonight, Deborah?
Oh, I'm doing a little tea tonight, lemon ginger tea.
All right.
It's a nice way to end a long day. Yeah. I might have something a little stronger later, but This is working for me right now.
Right now. And I have water with lemon and rosemary, fresh from the garden. So,
Oh, wonderful.
that's right. So let's celebrate. There's cheers.
Toast.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us this evening, and you can reach us on all of our socials, and we'll be back next week. We hope that you join us.